Hey everyone, this is a really tragic story about betrayal. Make sure to listen all the way to the end, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. And now, let's begin. She woke up earlier than usual. The gray morning light stretched through the window, filling the room with silence so deep she could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Next to her, he was sleeping, turned toward the wall, breathing slow and steady. There was a time when she loved watching him in the mornings, touching his hair, listening to his breathing. Now it had become just a routine, part of an endless script that repeated every day without change. She got up, went to the kitchen, turned on the kettle, and absent-mindedly made 2 cups of coffee. As always, she placed one in front of his spot, even though she knew he wouldn't say, "Thank you." Lately, he rarely said anything at all. They lived together, yet it felt like they were in different worlds, different schedules, different conversations, different emotions. Once, they had been bound by love, strong, alive, real. Now, all that was left were habits, shared memories, shared bills, and shared silence. He left early, came home late, hardly looked her in the eyes. When she asked how his day was, she got short answers. She tried to stay calm, but with each day, her voice grew quieter. Laughter hadn't lived in their home for a long time. Nothing specific had started it. No fight, no betrayal. At some point, what connected them simply disappeared. The interest, the tenderness, gone. Only the habit of being near remained. She often caught herself feeling nothing at all. No love, no hate. Just emptiness, coldness, a fog between 2 people who once were everything to each other. Then, one day, everything changed. At her ordinary job, where she spent most of her time, someone new appeared. A new co-worker, younger, warm, with bright eyes that held something she hadn't seen in years. Attention. They talked casually about work. But in those simple conversations, there was more warmth than in any words she had heard at home in months. He listened, smiled, asked questions, and she realized she was waiting for these talks, that her mood changed after just one glance from him. It felt like her heart remembered how to beat again. She knew it was dangerous. She knew she shouldn't even think about it. But the more she tried to convince herself, the more she was drawn to him. It started small. A few messages in the evening like, "How was your day?" or "Did you eat?" Then, long talks until midnight. She didn't notice how the line between friendship and something more began to fade. Because he gave her what she had been missing for so long. Attention, care, genuine interest. There was no pretense in his words. When he looked at her, she felt alive. And for the first time in a long while, she smiled, truly smiled. At home, nothing changed. Her husband stayed late, barely spoke, never asked how she was, and each evening when she set the table for 2 but ate alone, she felt more and more invisible. Then came the night when everything happened. Nothing was planned. Just a meeting after work, a conversation, laughter, a look, and suddenly, a touch that changed everything. She didn't resist. Not because she wanted to cheat, but because she had forgotten what warmth felt like. That night, for the first time in ages, she felt like a woman again, desired, real. But the morning brought fear, guilt, and shame. She looked at her husband and knew nothing would ever be the same. She tried to stop, told herself it was wrong, that she had to end it. But her heart didn't listen. She saw that man again. Her life split into 2. One where she was a wife, keeping up appearances, and another where she was breathing, laughing, feeling. Weeks turned into months. She became lost, hating herself more each day. Sometimes she wanted to confess. Sometimes she wished her husband would just find out. But he seemed not to notice anything. That hurt the most, his indifference. It was as if he no longer cared what happened near him. And then one day, Everything came out. By accident. A message on her phone, left on the table. He saw it. He was silent for a long time. Then he asked quietly, "Who is this?" She didn't answer. Tears ran down her face. He didn't yell, didn't accuse. He just looked at her, tired, distant, as if she were a stranger. After that, nothing was the same. They tried to talk, but every word sounded like a lie. He grew colder. She grew quieter. Silence filled the house, heavy, suffocating, unbearable. A week later, he packed his things. He didn't say where he was going, just closed the door behind him. She stayed alone. At first, she thought it was temporary, that he'd calm down, forgive. But days passed, and he never came back. She tried calling, texting, but there was only silence. That's when she understood. It was really over. The first days were unbearable. She barely ate, barely slept. She sat by the window staring into nothing, replaying the same words. Why? And how? She hadn't wanted to destroy everything. She had just wanted to be seen, to be heard, to not feel so alone. And now that everything was gone, she realized cheating doesn't save anything. It only exposes the emptiness that was already there. Time passed. She stopped writing to that man. It ended as suddenly as it began. Because it wasn't love, it was an escape from pain. She lived alone, slowly learning how to breathe again. She worked more, walked more, talked to old friends she had avoided. Some evenings, she played the old music they used to dance to in the kitchen, and her chest tightened, not from love but from regret. She realized it wasn't just his fault. They both destroyed what they had. He, with his indifference. She, with her weakness. They both missed the moment when it could still be saved. Sometimes, walking past the cafe where she first met that other man, she noticed she felt nothing. No pain, no guilt, no desire to return. Just quiet acceptance, and the understanding that all of it had been inevitable. Love doesn't die suddenly. It dies slowly. When people stop listening, stop talking, stop looking at each other. When silence replaces words. When indifference replaces touch. And when someone new appears. Someone who simply listens. Sometimes cheating isn't about betrayal. It's a desperate attempt to feel alive again. But it always leaves a mark, one that never fades. Years passed. She met another man. He was kind, calm, attentive. She took her time. Trust didn't come easily. She was afraid to repeat her past. But one day she realized the past no longer held her. She had learned to let go. And still, sometimes, when it rains outside, she remembers that gray morning, the one when it all began. And she thinks if only she had turned to her husband that day, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said, "I'm hurting. I miss you." Maybe things would have been different. But life doesn't like what-ifs. Now she knows. Betrayal doesn't start with someone else's hands. It starts when two people stop being together, even while sharing the same bed. Cheating isn't always about the body. More often, it's the heart. And the scariest part isn't the act itself, but the fact that you can never go back to what was before. She learned to forgive. Him and herself. She learned that anyone can stumble if they walk alone for too long. The main thing is not to stay lost forever. Now she lives quietly, peacefully, works, reads, smiles at strangers. Her life is different, calm, warm, without storms. And if someone asks whether she regrets what happened, she'll say yes. But not because she cheated, because she realized too late what was missing. Love needs to be spoken out loud before it's too late. You have to listen, even when it seems you already understand. You have to look into each other's eyes, hold one another, ask how the day was, because happiness is built from those little things. And when they disappear, love leaves too, quietly, without fights, without words, just like that gray morning, the one when she first felt that they were already gone. And maybe That's when it all began.